Vin Baker is now over 60, and the way he's living today is honestly shocking. You wouldn't believe it unless you heard the full story. Once an NBA All-Star, his life took a turn that nobody saw coming. Alcoholism slowly took over and led to a downfall so heartbreaking, it's hard to imagine how far he fell. But trust me, his journey is one of the wildest you'll ever hear. So let's get into it. It all started with something that many athletes struggle with, but rarely talk about openly: depression. Behind the smiles, the trophies, and the millions of dollars, Vin Baker was quietly battling his own inner demons. And sadly, alcohol became his way of coping. What started as a way to take the edge off quickly grew into a full-blown addiction. Over time, that addiction didn't just affect his personal life, it wrecked his career, his finances, and nearly destroyed him completely. Baker has openly admitted that depression and alcoholism were the main reasons his career fell apart so suddenly. At one point, he was one of the most promising players in the NBA. He had size, skill, and an all-star resume. But once alcohol took hold, everything started to slip through his fingers. Things came to a head on June 19, 2007. That night, Baker was arrested in Norwich, Connecticut for drunk driving after leaving the Foxwoods Resort Casino. It wasn't just a personal low, it was public, humiliating, and yet another sign that things were getting worse, not better. But the problems didn't stop there. Just a year later, in June 2008, more bad news hit. Baker's 10,000 square foot mansion in Durham, Connecticut, once a symbol of his success, was foreclosed on. The home, worth $2.3 million, was auctioned off and bought by US Bank for $2.5 million. It was a painful reminder that no matter how much money you make, it can disappear just as fast if you're not in control of your life. And that's exactly what happened to Vin. He reportedly lost over $100 million during his darkest years. Money that he earned through blood, sweat, and countless hours on the court. Just gone. It's almost hard to believe. But that's what addiction and depression can do. They strip away everything, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but regret. For a long time, it looked like Baker might never bounce back. But then something changed. In 2013, the New York Daily News reported that Baker had finally stopped drinking. The exact date he marked his sobriety, April 17, 2011. That day became a turning point. After years of struggle, pain, and self-destruction, Vin Baker decided he wanted to live again. And not just survive, but truly live with purpose. He began rebuilding his life slowly and steadily. No more hiding, no more running from the past. He took ownership of his mistakes and started climbing out of the hole he'd fallen into. And in one of the most inspiring comebacks you'll ever hear, he found his way back into the world of basketball. Not as a player this time, but as a mentor. Since 2018, Baker has been working as an assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. Imagine that. A man who once hit rock bottom, now standing tall on the sidelines, coaching some of the best players in the league. And in 2021, his journey came full circle when the Bucks won the NBA championship. Vin Baker, a man who once lost everything, was now an NBA champion once again. Now let's take a step back and look at his playing days. The years that shaped him into the man he is today. Before all the struggles, before the headlines about addiction and financial troubles, Vin Baker was a rising star. And not just any star, he was one of the brightest young talents in the NBA during the 1990s. His journey to the pros didn't come through a major college powerhouse either. He made a name for himself at the University of Hartford, a small school where he dominated and turned heads with his incredible potential. Despite flying under the radar for a while, NBA scouts couldn't ignore his size, skill, and raw talent. In 1993, all that hard work paid off when the Milwaukee Bucks selected Baker with the 8th overall pick in the NBA draft. From the moment he stepped onto the court, it was clear this guy had something special. He wasn't just another big man. He was athletic, could score inside and out, rebound, pass, and even block shots. He quickly became one of the faces of the franchise, sharing the spotlight with Glenn Robinson. Baker spent 4 seasons in Milwaukee, and during that time, he absolutely shined. He made 3 straight All-Star teams, proving that he belonged among the league's elite. In fact, he even put together some pretty incredible performances along the way. Take March 14th, 1995, for example. That night, Baker posted a rare triple-double, 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 12 assists in a win over the Charlotte Hornets. Just a few weeks later, on April 11th, he dropped 31 points, grabbed 12 boards, and handed out 9 assists in a dominant win over the Detroit Pistons. During the 1995-96 and 1996-97 seasons, Baker was in his prime, averaging over 21 points per game. He wasn't just putting up stats, he was playing with confidence and leading his team every night. One of his standout games came on March 1st, 1997, when he recorded 20 points, 15 rebounds, and a career-high 6 blocks in a tough battle against the Sacramento Kings. Moments like that reminded everyone just how versatile and impactful he could be. But despite his personal success, something always seemed to hold the Bucks back. During Baker's 4 seasons in Milwaukee, the team never made the playoffs. It wasn't because of him, he was doing everything he could, but the pieces just didn't click. And so, after the 1996-97 season, a big move happened. Baker was traded to the Seattle Supersonics in a complex 3-team deal. The move sent shockwaves through the league. Seattle had just lost their star forward Shawn Kemp, and the pressure was on Baker to step in and fill that massive void. But he rose to the challenge. In his first season with the Sonics, Baker helped the team to a fantastic regular season. They finished with a 61-21 record, matching the record of the Los Angeles Lakers. In the playoffs, Baker helped Seattle get past the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round. Then came a brutal second-round series against the Lakers. Game 5 of that series was a heartbreaker. With everything on the line, Baker gave it everything he had, 29 points and 9 rebounds. But it wasn't enough. The Sonics lost the game in the series, but Baker's performance showed he could still be a difference maker, even under pressure. On February 1st, 2000, he delivered another memorable game, scoring 33 points and adding 5 rebounds and 5 assists in a win over Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz. But as the new millennium rolled in, Baker's life behind the scenes was starting to change, and not for the better. After 4 seasons in Seattle, Baker was traded to the Boston Celtics. At first, it seemed like a fresh start, but something was different. His numbers had started to slip, and he didn't look like the same dominant force on the court. It wasn't just about age or injuries. Something deeper was going on. It soon came out that Baker had been battling alcoholism, and it had started to take a serious toll on his game. He gained weight during the 1998-99 lockout season, ballooning close to 300 pounds. Though he managed to slim back down, the damage had already been done. In a brutally honest interview, Baker admitted he would drink heavily after bad games, sometimes in hotel rooms, sometimes at home, trying to drown the pressure and disappointment. Things reached a breaking point in Boston. One day, Celtics coach Jim O'Brien smelled alcohol on him during practice. He confronted Baker, and the team eventually suspended him. Not long after, he was released. It was a crushing blow, but his basketball story wasn't quite over yet. Baker signed with the New York Knicks next, and though his role was smaller, he was part of a squad that made it to the playoffs during the 2003-04 season. He wasn't the star anymore, but he was still fighting to stay in the game. Then came a trade to the Houston Rockets in 2005. Baker and teammate Moochie Norris were dealt for Morris Taylor, but his time in Houston was short-lived. The team released him in October of that same year. Still not ready to give up, he joined the Los Angeles Clippers for the 2005-06 season. He played mostly as a reserve, a far cry from the all-star he once was, but he kept pushing. In 2006, Baker gave it one more shot with the Minnesota Timberwolves. It felt like a full-circle moment, since their head coach, Dwayne Casey, had once been an assistant during Baker's Seattle days. Unfortunately, that reunion didn't last long. Baker never played a regular season game for the Wolves and was released after just 6 weeks. He was placed on the inactive list for the first 6 games, and by November 13, 2006, his time with Minnesota, and essentially his playing career, was over. And that's a wrap for today's video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe so you never miss an update. We'll catch you next time. Take care.